Hill 10 was uh, a little knob of a hill on the farthest west portion of our area of responsibility for the regiment. And so we were surrounded by rice paddies uh, with the scattered villages throughout the perimeter out in the, maybe a half a mile away. And whether you were going either direction, north, south, east, west, you can almost be guaranteed to become a victim of booby traps, which the area was famous for. And it was called the Rocket Belt. And our job collectively in the different hills that we were set up on to protect Da Nang from these rockets and sappers, which for the most part was extremely difficult to do. I don't know if it's because we were outsmarted or undermanned. So the Viet Cong used that area to put in a lot of booby traps. And when I became a squad leader, I lost 3 men to that.
Wounded?
Yeah. They lost their legs, or one or two, and being in the center of the squad, responsible for 12 men, I saw this happen right in front of my eyes. Them, the noise of the explosion and seeing their bodies being thrown up in the air, and coming down. At one particular time, my back was facing the front. I was telling the rear guard something, and the guy several guys in front of me, one of them hit a booby trap, and I was blown onto my stomach on the ground. I had shrapnel all over my flak jacket, and that was the closest time I came to the concussion of a booby trap. But the horror of losing a guy severely injured for the rest of his life really put a shock in me.
Did this happen fairly early? This incident you're describing now, did this happen fairly early in your tour?
It was being promoted early because of my performance, and going into E4 corporal. That's when you're put into the place of leadership because of your men observing you, your officers observing you on and off patrol. So they put their faith and trust in me like they did everybody else that had that responsibility.
Wow. So what do you, I mean, the question, and it's a question that, you know, probably you can't fully answer. But you just described, you know, this case where there's a trap, a Marine is seriously wounded, you see it happen. That Marine, and you know that Marine, if that Marine survives, that Marine is going to be, you know, living with the consequences of this terrible injury for the rest of his life. You see that Marine go off in the medevac, but you still have months to go in your own tour.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Just try to forget it? Do you become an automaton? Do you pray all the time? I mean, what do you do to keep yourself moving forward?
Well, we when you're there at first, you have examples from guys that have been there, squad leaders, platoon leaders, and you had better learn and strict discipline. uh, but the overall feeling amongst all of us is that, besides being young, is that, crap happens.
Mm.
We get them, they get us, we get them, and it's it's not a game. It's a it's a sometimes I look at it as a tit for tat. And well, you got us this time, we're going to get you next time attitude.
Mm.
And so by the time I became a squad leader, I was thoroughly PO'd at this game that they seem to enjoy of causing grave damage. Uh, and so that also contributed toward some of us enjoying causing them grave damage. So it was that kind of scenario.
It sounds like you're referring to a motivation of revenge,
Yeah,
which makes sense.
yeah, that was very heavy in our company, and it was part of my problem that I absorbed
Why do you why do you call that a problem?
because the we were practically given free free command uh, activity to do as we needed to do, and if it meant being extra mean, that was okay. Uh, going beyond sometimes going beyond moral uh, boundaries.
Are you able to give an example to kind of illustrate what you're just referring to?
We had we had seen and experienced the meanness of the Viet Cong on their own people, as as well as the armed services. Their goal, the NVA and the Viet Cong, their goal was to get results, and they did not comply with the Geneva Convention, whereas we did. We had to, and so there were times when, in the case of my being a squad leader, uh, well, even before, as part of the fire team, especially during the squad patrol, 13 men, uh, we we uh, we wanted to get into firefights. We went out to get involved. That was our job, was to produce results. But the Viet Cong and the NBA capacity to play dirty, I mean downright dirty, uh, against I won't call us innocent Marines, but
Mm.
we were victims, and they were victims. So
Mm.
we 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 used our our keen hearing, our keen eyesight, our patience, uh, to the point of increasing our frustration because they hid so well and utilized booby traps of many forms and fashion. So it was almost once you got off the hill, it was tiptoe. You spent so much time looking at the ground instead of your surroundings.
Mm. And I'm just imagining the incredible just psychological stress of that, not only of being in a war situation, not only of experiencing combat, not only of worrying about ambushes, but it's what you're describing. I mean, literally having to watch every single step you take, and just the constant expenditure of mental energy on that, along with the physical energy and everything else. It sounds exhausting.
One extreme experience that pushed me to my limit, uh, and everybody has a limit, uh, one of their own. Uh, we had gone out, and there's no such thing as a routine patrol.
Mm.
There's no routine at all. Uh, you have your map, you have your orders to follow the checkpoints from the first one to the last one coming back to the hill. And so it's like when there's animals or birds that are normal in our home environment here in the States, and you're out walking a trail, and all of a sudden there's death quiet.
Mm.
It's like an ominous sign that something isn't right. You get that feeling of in your stomach that you better increase your paying attention. So anyway, we had come to this relative clearing, and we stopped, and of course we're spread out somewhat. And the point man, who was a black guy, we were friends. He was a very small guy, and he liked carrying an M14, which was heavy. And he was experienced point, uh, and we trusted each other. And I indicated on the map that we needed to go down this trail through the tree line, and he began to uh, express his opinion that he did not feel good about going that way. And what we had as a polite argument, and he knew I had the final word, but he was visibly shaken about going the way we were supposed to go, and he indicated where he felt that it was better to go a different direction, and I gave in. And within half a minute, he hit a mine, a booby trap, and I saw him fly through the air. He didn't weigh 115 pounds, and it shocked the hell out of me. And of course, the word "no," you could hear it throughout the whole valley. Uh, and immediately, of course, my corpsman friend of mine uh, ran to his name was Small, and he ran to him to administer first aid. And I had my radio man call in a medevac, uh, and I didn't even realize for a long time that it was not an ambush, which was the general thing that would happen. Booby trap ambush. So it was deadly quiet, and I ran over to uh, the man, knelt down next to him, and I was bawling my head off. And he was looking up at me and saying, "I'm sorry." That was a that was a wrong word to say. That I was the one who was sorry, and I asked him to forgive me. And he had a death grip on my arms, and of course my men set up a perimeter so that the helicopter would land with a white smoke uh, going off, and so all that happened, and I just collapsed into a pathetic heap. They, my men had to have a leadership. They had to have a leader, and I made myself compose myself, and he was taken off to the hospital ship, reposed off the coast, and we ended up finishing our patrol. And I was one hurting puppy, uh, upset and angry. Uh, that is etched in my brain forever.
Did he survive?
Yeah.
Um, he said that he was sorry. And I'm assuming he meant because you had taken his suggestion of going the way he wanted to go. But then you said that no, I'm sorry. What was it that drove you to say that you were sorry for what had happened?
Because he got potentially mortally injured, and I pounded the ground. You know, please, Lord, don't take him. And yet, in a sense, there's when you have a major injury, there are some people who welcome death because there is so much trauma immediately that rips up their body, and the corpsman is doing his best to address that issue, to reduce the shock, uh, or stop the bleeding, and do a marvelous job that they do uh, to increase survival uh, in a human body, and that is something that is an extremely harsh lesson for men who survive to see that happen. Taking a bullet is one thing. Uh, to be blown to bits is indescribable. To see it happen to one of your men.